Rain poured down hard on the city that night, soaking the neon lights and turning the streets into rivers of color. Inside Giovanni's club, the most feared place in New York's underworld, the music stopped the moment Don Marco Santori walked in. He wasn't just any boss. He was the man even killers whispered about. His sharp eyes, silver hair, and calm voice carried the kind of weight that could make a man confess before being asked a question. Behind the bar stood Calvin Brooks, a quiet black man in his early 30s who had been working there for almost 2 years. He wasn't like the others. He didn't drink, didn't gamble, and never looked anyone in the eye too long. But his loyalty, his silence, and his clean work had earned Marco's rare respect. That night, Marco came to the counter and ordered his usual. "Whiskey, neat." Calvin nodded, poured the drink, and slid it across the polished wood. But as he reached out, his sleeve rolled up just enough for Marco to see something that made his stomach twist: dark bruises around his wrist. "Who did that to you?" Marco's voice was low, dangerous. Calvin quickly tugged his sleeve down. "It's nothing, boss, just an accident. An accident that looks like handprints." Marco's tone sharpened. The club grew silent again. Everyone knew when Marco's voice dropped like that, someone was about to regret it. Calvin shook his head nervously. "Please, sir. I just slipped while lifting crates. I'm fine." But Marco's eyes didn't believe him. He'd seen too many lies in his lifetime, too many broken men trying to hide their pain. Still, he didn't push that night. He just nodded slowly and said, "Go home early, Calvin. Take care of yourself." The next morning, Marco couldn't shake the image. The bruises haunted him. Something in Calvin's eyes, fear mixed with shame, had struck a nerve. He sent 2 of his men, Tony and Rico, to follow Calvin after work. "Don't hurt him. Just watch," he ordered. That evening, the men returned with grim faces. Tony spoke first. "Boss, it ain't good. The guy's got a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, sweet kid. Lives in a rough neighborhood." "But that's not all," Rico interrupted. "There's a cop. Comes by every few nights. Beats him up. We saw it happen. Right outside his damn building." Marco's glass froze halfway to his lips. "A cop?" "Yeah, name's Detective Harris. We checked. He used to be Calvin's brother-in-law. Turns out Calvin's wife died 2 years ago. Harris blames him for it. Says Calvin should have protected her." Marco's jaw tightened. He had dealt with monsters before, but this was something else. A man of law turning into an abuser. He leaned back in his chair, eyes dark. "No one lays a hand on one of mine." The next night, Marco visited Calvin's neighborhood alone. He left the black car a few blocks away and walked through the dim streets, his coat collar pulled up. He found the small apartment building easily. Faint light spilled from a cracked window, and inside he saw Calvin sitting at a worn-out table with his daughter, helping her with homework. Her laughter filled the room like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. For a man who'd spent his life in blood and power, that sight did something to Marco. He saw what peace looked like and how fragile it was. Then, suddenly, the door burst open. A heavy-set man in a police jacket barged in, drunk and shouting. "You think you can ignore me, huh? You think you can hide from me, Calvin?" Marco watched from the shadows. Calvin stood up quickly, shielding his daughter. "Please, Harris. Not in front of her, please." But the cop slapped him across the face. "You killed my sister, you piece of trash." Calvin fell, his little girl screaming. Harris raised his gun. Before he could pull the trigger, the lights went out. A single voice echoed in the darkness, cold, commanding. "Put the gun down." The room filled with tension as Marco stepped out of the shadows. His eyes were like knives. "You like hitting men who don't fight back, huh? Who the hell are you?" Harris barked. Marco smiled faintly. "The man who decides if you walk out alive." Harris raised his weapon, trembling slightly. "You're interfering with police business." A shot rang out, not from Harris's gun, but from Marco's silenced pistol. The bullet shattered a vase beside Harris's head, spraying ceramic dust across his face. "I don't kill cops," Marco said softly. "But touch him or that child again and I'll make you wish I did." Harris stumbled back, pale, shaking. He lowered his gun, muttered a curse, and ran out the door. Marco turned to Calvin, who was frozen, trembling beside his daughter. The little girl hid behind him, eyes wide with fear. "Take her somewhere safe tonight," Marco said gently. "I'll handle the rest." The next morning, news spread through the underworld like wildfire. Detective Harris had been arrested, caught with drugs in his car, anonymous tip to Internal Affairs. No one knew where the drugs came from, but Marco did. That night, Calvin showed up at Giovanni's club holding an envelope. Inside was a resignation letter. "I can't work here anymore," he said quietly. "You've done too much already. I don't want trouble following you because of me." Marco leaned back in his chair, watching him. "You think I helped you for loyalty? For business?" Calvin hesitated. "Then why?" The old man's eyes softened. "Because once, long ago, I had a son your age. He died because someone hurt him. And I didn't get there in time. When I saw those bruises, I saw him again." Calvin's throat tightened. I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," Marco murmured. "Just live a life that he never could." There was silence between them for a long time, broken only by the faint jazz music from the club's speakers. Finally, Marco slid a key across the table. "There's an apartment uptown. Safer neighborhood. It's yours now. Take your girl. Start fresh." Calvin's eyes filled with tears. "Boss, I can't." "You can," Marco interrupted, his voice low but firm. "Because you've earned it. You showed more strength than most men I know." For the first time, Calvin smiled, a genuine, grateful smile. "Thank you, sir. For everything." Marco nodded once. "Get out of this life while you still can. The world's cruel, but there are still people worth fighting for. Remember that." Months passed. Calvin never returned to the club, but Marco sometimes received postcards. Pictures of Calvin's daughter playing in the park, smiling. Each time, Marco would quietly pour himself a glass of whiskey, look at the photo and whisper, "Good man." One night, Tony asked, "Boss, you really think he'll stay clean?" Marco didn't answer right away. He stared out the window at the rain, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "If anyone deserves peace," he said finally, "it's the man who's been through hell and still chooses kindness." Then he raised his glass to the empty air, as if toasting ghosts only he could see. "Here's to second chances."